Hello everyone. I'm Ankita and I'm back with the fifth episode of Bible Storytime series. And today we are going to listen to the story of Abraham and Isaac. It is a beautiful story of God's justice to the people of the world. Let's start. Abraham and Sarah wanted to have a baby. But even after angels told them that Sarah would have a son in 9 months' time, they could hardly believe it. They trusted God to keep his words. But Sarah was 90 and Abraham was nearly 100 years old. It seemed impossible. A few days after the angel's visit, Abraham heard Sarah crying. "What's the matter?" he asked, rushing over. Sarah looked up at her husband through tear-filled eyes. "It's happened," she whispered. "We are going to have a baby. At long last, God has given Abraham and Sarah what they wanted most of all." When the baby was born, Abraham and Sarah named him Isaac, as God asked. Abraham didn't miss a moment of Isaac's childhood and watched him grow into a healthy and strong boy. Every night, Isaac came and sat by Abraham and they talked for hours. Abraham often remembered that God has told him one day Isaac would marry and Abraham would have as many grandchildren and great-grandchildren as there were stars in the sky. "Isaac, I'm going to the market," Sarah said one day. "Would you help me carry the shopping?" "Of course," Isaac replied cheerfully. Abraham waved goodbye and sat down, looking over the hills of Canaan, deep in thought. He would have had a long life and it hadn't been an unhappy one. But it was only recent that he felt as if the last piece had slotted into place. Since Isaac had been born, he felt calm and unafraid. God had promised great things for Isaac, so Abram had nothing to worry about. But then, a mighty voice shook him from his dreaming. "Abram, where are you?" God was asking him. I am here, Lord. "I'm here, Lord," said Abraham quickly. "Abram, what I am about to ask you to do will not be easy," said God. "I will do anything," Abraham said. Whatever it was that God wanted him to do, he couldn't imagine refusing. "Tomorrow morning, you must travel to a place named Moriah," God continued. "There you must make a sacrifice." Abraham had made sacrifices many times before. It was a ritual that was always done in the same way. An animal was killed with a knife and then burnt as the offering to God. Abraham was happy to do it. "Of course," he cried, "I have 2 fat young lambs or a goat," or he was cut off. "I don't want you to sacrifice a lamb or a goat. Abraham, you must sacrifice your son Isaac." Abraham felt sick. He didn't understand how God could ask him to take any young boy's life. Never mind his own sons. God gave Isaac to Abraham and Sarah. He was going to take him away? Abraham couldn't bear the thought of giving up his son, but he also couldn't stand the thought of going against something that God wanted. He knew he should trust and obey God, but surely this was too awful a thing to demand. When Isaac arrived home with his mother, chattering and laughing, he noticed at once that something was wrong. His father was pale and shaking. Isaac, go to your bed now and go to sleep. Abraham said, "We have a long journey ahead of us in the morning." "But it's early," Isaac protested. "Now!" Abraham shouted. Isaac ran to his bed, upset and confused. His father had never shouted at him before. "What's wrong?" asked Sarah. Once Isaac had left, did something happen while we were at the market? But Abraham knew that this was a burden he has to carry alone. He shouldn't tell Sarah what God had asked him to do. "Prepare my donkey," he said gruffly, "and ask 2 of our men to be ready in the morning. We are going to Moriah to offer the sacrifice." Sarah didn't dare ask any more questions. She did as her husband wanted. That night she lay silently next to him in the dark and wondered what could possibly be making the sacrifice so urgent. The next morning Sarah woke early and realized that Abraham wasn't beside her. From outside she heard a thud. Looking towards the tent's opening, she saw Abraham stopping over the wood block, angrily chopping firewood. Puzzled, she rose and went to Isaac. "It's time to wake up," she said, gently shaking him. "You are going on a trip." Isaac dressed hurriedly and went out to meet his father. Abraham was waiting for him with the 2 servants and a donkey, with 2 huge bundles of sticks balanced on its back. "Father, where's the lamb for us to sacrifice?" asked Isaac. Abraham said nothing. Isaac knew better than to ask again. Normally, Isaac would have been excited about going on a trip with his father, but Abraham stayed silent and thoughtful as they set off. Isaac watched him as they walked, carrying all the wood instead of the donkey. They walked for 2 days and night. Abraham didn't talk and tell stories as he usually did. He stayed up praying while his son slept. He desperately wanted to understand why God had asked him to do such a terrible thing. But he wasn't getting any answer. All he could do was to keep going and trust in God. At the back of his mind, he thought of what God had said about Isaac's future. It was some hope, at least, that Isaac might stay alive. On the 3rd day, Abraham saw Moriah on the horizon. "Wait here with the donkey," he told the 2 servants. "Isaac and I will go alone to top of the hill to worship." He took the big bundles of firewood, placed them on Isaac's back, and together they kept walking. "Father," Isaac asked again, "where's the lamb for us to sacrifice?" "God will give us the lamb, Isaac," said Abraham. Once they reached the top, Abraham stacked the wood with trembling hands until he was making a tall pile. With every stick he placed, he hoped that anything would happen to him, help him understand God's command. But nothing happened. Abraham thought of life without Isaac. He could hardly bear it. But then he thought about living life knowing that his faith was weak and small, and he couldn't bear evil. "Come here, son," he said quietly to Isaac. Isaac ran over to him, and Abraham lifted him on his arms and held him close. He could feel Isaac breathing quickly on his neck. Gently, Abraham laid his son down on top of the stack of wood. "Father, what's happening?" Isaac said. "You are scaring me." Abraham couldn't reply. Turning his eyes away, he drew a knife from his cloak and raised it high in the air. "Abraham, where are you?" A voice rang out across the hillside. Abraham froze. "I am here," he whispered. Put down your hands, said the angelic voice. Isaac is safe. You were willing to give your son to God. You have shown that you truly love him. Abraham dropped the knife and it clattered to the ground. He grabbed Isaac and held him tightly, shaking and thanking God for keeping his son alive. They hugged each other on the top of the hill and let go only when they heard a rustling to the bushes behind them. Abraham lifted his eye. A ram was caught by its horn in a tree. Abraham went to free it, deciding to would sacrifice the ram instead of Isaac to worship God. Once he had made his sacrifice, the angel spoke to him again. You have done a truly good and richest thing. Abraham, he said, God will bless you and your family, and Isaac will grow up to have grandchildren and great-grandchildren who will spread God's words to every nation of the earth. Each one of them will have God's blessings too. Abraham turned his son. Isaac, do you understand why I was willing to put your life in charge even though I love you beyond measure? He asked. Yes, father, replied Isaac. It was because you trusted God and trusted that He would provide a way out. And so He did, said Abraham, smiling. From now on, this place shall be known as Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. And the 6th episode of Bible Storytime series will be out soon. Thank you.